Start and then recess.
Yeah.
You want to do that?
Recording in progress.
Good. The microphone. I'm very on right now, and then I'm gonna turn off and move to school mode. And then I'll be able to more generalize.
We can't start without, Marty's sitting here like a minute.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like a workshop.
How are you?
Shit, we can.
I'm having a great time.
Okay, all right.
What day is it? I am where I'm supposed to be.
I'll start in 1 minute. That's fine? Technically, okay.
I mean, you can start now. I'm just saying if when he gets here and you have quorum, I would establish for the record that we have quorum and you're actually starting
Okay. Okay. Good morning, everyone, and I'll call this meeting of the City Council of the Village of the Hills to order. Today is August 12th. It is 9:01 a.m. Thank you, everyone, for being here. So let us begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise and join me in honoring our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. We can do public comment without a quorum.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So at this time, we'll now open the floor of public comments. Residents, actually, so just for note right now, we've got Rick, Sarah Carroll, Lee Crawford here, as well as myself. Okay, so at this time, we open the floor of public comment. Residents are encouraged to share their thoughts on matters related to the agenda or any other concerns they wish to address. It would be the appropriate time to comment on specific agenda items unless I call upon you later during the discussion of those items. The floor, go ahead and start here in person. Do you have any public comment? Okay, thank you. Online, let's go ahead and start with Karthik. Karthik, do you have any public comment? It may be muted.
He just unmuted.
It looks like it's picking up something. Karthik, we can't hear you, but we can come back to you in a minute and you can just jump back in. Tom, do you have any, oh, interesting. We can't hear anything on our end. Thanks, Tom. 1 second, Karthik. Okay, thanks, Karthik.
Can you hear us now?
An online meeting.
Oh. Now we can, thank you. All right, we now have a quorum. Marty Kate is in attendance. Okay. Tom, do you have any public comment?
No comment, thank you.
All right, thank you. Greg?
No, good morning. Here liaising on behalf of the POA. Hope everyone's
Good
well.
morning. Thank you. Okay. So first, we will start with our presentations. We actually have a special guest here today. We have Jim Vick. We have the privilege of recognizing him for his service and dedication that has left a lasting mark on our community. So I'd like to invite Jim to come up over here and stand with me, and I'll present to you this proclamation, of which I actually get to read into the record. So
This will take a while.
it might take a minute, given your distinguished service.
We'll start with
Yeah.
chapter one.
All right, it's a proclamation. Whereas James W. Jim Vick's service to the community began in 2018 as a member of the Hills Property Owners Association Board, where he served for 4 years and served as president of the board over 3 years. During that time, after serving on the Hills Property Owners Association Board, he was elected to the City Council of the Village of the Hills, where he served for 2 years. And whereas Jim is originally from Alpine, Texas, he's a proud graduate of Alpine High School and the University of Texas. And whereas Jim and Carla were residents of the Hills from 2017 through 2024. And whereas Jim, while working with various governing bodies of the Hills, he worked on several efforts related to road resurfacing, access gate infrastructure upgrades, greenbelt refresh efforts, the Hills Park upgrade efforts, and storm remediation efforts following 2 ice events experienced by the Hills. And whereas Jim is a humanitarian at heart, by devoting his time and energy to volunteer efforts that include his work on the POA and the City Council, the University of Texas Steve Hicks School of Social Works, various drug and alcohol dependency programs targeting the transition period of recovery after treatment, and higher educational financial support for at-risk individuals with limited access to funding for those expenses required to achieve their educational goals. And whereas Jim was elected to the Village of the Hills City Council in 2022, and the council nominated him to serve as secretary for the city council, where he dedicated relentless hours of his time to serving the residents of the Hills. Now, therefore, the Village of the Hills Council does hereby proclaim its appreciation and gratitude for James W. Jim Vick in recognition of his service to the Village of the Hills and its citizens in a collaborative, strategic, and professional manner. In witness thereof, on behalf of the City Council of the Village of the Hills, I have set my hand to this proclamation and cause the seal of the Village of the Hills to be affixed on this day, 12th day of August, 2025. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. You should get a picture with him.
Of course.
Yeah, let's go over here. We can go over there.
The flag would be great.
Yeah.
In front of the flag? Yeah.
Signature flag pictures.
So flag, we have Rick over here. Karthik is giving you an applause. That's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you,
Enjoyed it
Pam.
very much, Miss Macy.
Thank
It's always good to see you.
Always good.
Good morning.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You know, you're welcome to hang out.
Community. Yeah.
Let's stay for a few minutes.
Please.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, before we move on, Mayor, if you
Yes,
give me just a
absolutely.
moment of personal privilege here, I'd like to remember that, Jim was one of the people who sort of welcomed me onto the city council when I first came onto the council, and I've always appreciated his clarity of thought, as well as his dedication to what I think we all agree was the best interests of our community here. So I just personally like to thank you for bringing me onto the council and helping me become part of this body. It really has meant a lot to me. So thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Appreciate it very much. Your eloquence is legendary.
Well, yes, going on now. We can strike that from the record. Yes, sir.
All right. Consent agenda. All items listed under this item are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be a separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired by any council member on any item, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. So we have the approval of the minutes of July 9th, 2025, regular city council meeting, and approve the minutes of July 9th, 2025, city council budget workshop.
I'll move approval of the consent agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, none, motion carries. Okay, reports, law enforcement report, we can go ahead and start with. Sir, do you have a report to give us?
I do, but I got it last minute.
Okay,
So, if you want, I can email it to you.
yeah,
It's however y'all want to do it, but I got it last minute.
okay,
My corporal was
Is
supposed
it
to.
this?
I just glanced at it because, like I said, I got it, but, yes. Yes.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
My corporal was actually supposed to attend and got tied up, so I was the one that came over. But yes, that is what I glanced at.
Okay,
yeah, so we should have that then.
yeah.
Yeah, it looked like we had our standard full-time patrol and a total of 207 community, or I guess 207 reports of incident.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 101 reports of incidents, 160 community contacts.
And Deputy, I gather from your comments that you're not actually familiar with the individual incidents that are in the report. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, I mean, some of the more specialized
Yeah.
ones or more serious ones, I'm involved in. Usually, I get the reports, I read over the reports and sign off on them, that type of thing. But as far as personally being involved in them, no.
And so for instance, I was actually going to ask about, there's one note in the note comment section, there was two fraud complaints, and without naming names, do you know anything about the background of those?
Those in particular, no, sir, I do not.
Okay.
I can definitely research it and update you guys on it just to kind of keep you on the loop.
Or maybe we'll just catch up next month on it.
But, and I can definitely do that as well.
Okay.
You know, and have more of a kind of an itemized,
Yes, sir.
you know, information on it. But like I said, specifics I do not know,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Moving on to Parks and Recreation Liaison.
Yeah, we had a regular meeting last night, yesterday evening. We created little area captains and kind of nominated them. And so basically individuals that will report on a monthly basis to Parks and Rec on a specific area. So we'll have somebody that's kind of overseeing the dog park. We'll have a landscaping person, the walking trail, pavilion, and the playground too. And so just getting into, you know, we were reflecting a little bit on kind of the budget workshop conversation, how, you know, Parks is doing a great job of managing, running, creating the events, but maybe there should be a little bit more stewardship of the actual facility. So that was kind of the intention there. We're also working on a movie night, September 21st, which happens to also be National Ice Cream Cone Day. So we'll
No, there was one.
Know that.
And then finally, Andrea and Jessica, who are chairing Hills Fest, are going to meet separately with the club coming up to see if we can get the club kind of engaged with Hills Fest.
Nice. I really like the move towards stewardship of the park. That's really good. So thank you for spearheading that. Sure.
Remind me the date. Do you mark it down for Hills Fest?
5th or the 8th? Definitely 5th.
Thank you.
5th, yeah, October 5th.
Okay.
Or the 8th. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out a name for the area captains or area leads. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Gotta be clever.
Very good.
I appreciate that approach.
Great. POA liaison.
I was at the meeting, through, Teams, and what they discussed were assessments that were due. And basically their finances are good. They talked about the gate, keypads and basically getting the assessments in on by June 30th. I know there's some that are still outstanding, but other than that, they're doing good.
Was that, just for clarification, the gate keypad, was that specific to EMS access?
Yes.
When are they getting the estimates?
They didn't specify by what time they were getting in. I know they reached out to several companies.
Okay. Okay, mud liaison.
Mayor, I was unable to attend the Mud Board meeting last month, but I believe Angie was in attendance. And if you have a report, be happy to hear that.
Yes, sir. Basically, Kirk talked about safety in reference to the meter box safeties. And Director Almond asked a question about, because of all the rain and everything, the flooding, if there was the creek that goes down to the wastewater plant, how they are access to that when it floods. And Earl said through the SCADA system, but they have access through the golf course to that. Also, they talked about drought contingency. Now it's 2 days per week. And you can use all the water those 2 days per week. Other than that, they talked about the budget, and next Monday is when they're gonna approve the budget. So they're gonna want the tax rate to stay the same, or a little bit lower.
Okay.
And on the generator that we're discussing, they're gonna put it behind the building instead of beside the building. And that is basically it. Their finances are good as well.
Thank you. F, welcome committee liaison.
Yeah, so we are on month 3 of making calls. So we're divvying it up and making contact with the new move-ins. So that's nice. We're also considering hosting a mixer or happy hour or something for this quarter in lieu of having the kind of package ready, just to get everybody kind of together. So they're planning that. But they are continuing to work on the handout and the basket.
Yeah. How are these calls going down?
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, it's funny because we have, I think, two realtors on the Welcome Commission. So like they did some of these deals.
Yeah.
And so they know these people, and a few have been neighbors like that they've already had discussions with. So and you know, some we're having a hard time getting in touch with. So it's not perfect, but you know, I think it's progress. But,
Yeah. Great initiative. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, city administrator.
We replaced all the dog stations in the neighborhood in reference to, we're not putting steel dog stations anymore. Because they seem to rust real easy, and these are guaranteed for a longer period of time, more like 10 years. So all of them have been replaced and are good to go. We do have an issue with the parks dog station. They seem to be disappearing, the bags. So we have extra put in there for everybody. And that, we're good.
Thank you for working on that project. I have heard some very positive feedback from the community. They're very pleased to see that.
I know that we want to add one more dog station.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mhm.
Youth Advisory Commission.
That would be me. So this would be typically the time of the year that we re-up the program for the kids once they've gotten into school. I sent out a survey to our existing and former members. Unfortunately, I only had 2 respondents back that they would still be interested in pursuing it. I did send out online requests for new membership and haven't received any since then. So at this time, we don't have a quorum or a membership possible. So I think if council's okay with it, I'd like to try for the next month and see if we get any additional recruits. And if not, maybe put the program, if we don't resolve to having the minimum requirement, then putting the program on hold and maybe working out some of the kinks and figuring out what that should look like for the following year.
That's a good plan. Hopefully we can figure it out though.
I know. Great.
All right, thank you. Mayor's reports. I got a few updates and some have come from questions from the community, but Google Fiber, I saw that some people inquired about Google Fiber. So we've been in contact with the Google team. So their messaging is they are still evaluating potential build plans to determine the best way to bring quote unquote clean, efficient, and cost-effective installation here. And they are meeting internally probably this week or next week to continue determining whether they can get an efficient build plan. I know that both Lakeway and Bee Cave, and I guess to note that the big holdup at this point for Google Fiber in our community is Google itself. The POA has already signed their right of entry, and we're just waiting on anything else from Google Fiber. So that's in their court at this point. And then Lakeway and Bee Cave have approved their right-of-way agreements with Google, and Google is still working with both of them to align on building standards. So there's still not an actual timeline regarding construction starting in both Bee Cave and Lakeway, according to our Google contact. So that's still up in the air as well. November election, I just want to remind everybody about the upcoming election. There's 3 seats that will be on the ballot in November. And if anybody's interested in running, I myself and then anyone else on the council would be more than happy to connect and answer questions directly. If anybody wants to grab a coffee and chat about what the role entails or the process, we're happy to do that. But the deadline is Monday, August 18th at 5 p.m. And you would do that by filing the application in person with Angie at the Hills office. And she's flexible and available to make appointments if that works best for anyone. But again, happy to answer any questions, and hopefully we can get some applications, more applications in. And then an intersection update outside the neighborhood for Main Street. So that has been pushed back to June 2026 at the earliest. That's related to complications we discussed previously around the water districts and then the developers. So the project timeline keeps getting extended, but the latest completion date as of now is June 2026. And that is
completion though. What's, do you have a start date?
there. I don't even think it's gonna. Yeah, I mean, there's no start date. They're just saying they're targeting June 2026. I mean, they've done a lot of work out there and you can see they're actively excavating, working on it, but that's the latest we have from the developer and Lakeway. Okay, moving on to business items. Council will individually consider and possibly take action on any of the following items. Item 7A, discuss, consider, and take action on the finance treasurer report for July 2025. Rick, are you going to be doing the finance report?
I can, I guess. It's it's been a quiet month again.
Yeah.
There's really been no change. We had 56,000 in expenses, 40,000 in income. I know Sarah, Angie, and Joy are working very hard on the budget. And I'll be back next week and expect to stay until September 9th. So we'll be working on things like adjustments and accruals for year end. And we still have that cash fund discrepancy of about 18,000. I just spoke to Joy about it. It's probably from the conversion, but I won't know until I get into it further.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Do you need a motion to approve it?
Yeah,
All right, well, I'll move to approve the finance report.
Second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? None, motion carries. Okay. Item 7B, discussion on the provisions, applications, and scope of a comprehensive zoning ordinance for the city. Lee, would you like to?
Sure,
Take this one on.
Mayor, I think this is my item. And Angie, do you have that slide deck?
Work with me on that?
Yeah.
Got it open.
If you could pull it up here so that people attending virtually would be able to see it, that would be great.
Angie, can you
And
share? the-
Yeah, and while you're doing that, Mayor, I'll just ask, I have a little presentation that I'd like to go through for everyone about zoning in general. And it would also be my request maybe that we could take the same item and bring it into executive session at an appropriate time during the meeting. I think we might have some legal questions for the city attorney about process and maybe some questions about kind of the substance of a zoning ordinance as well. So if we could do that, that'd be great, Mayor. And while they're loading the slides, I'll just maybe start off by saying that I would see this conversation around this issue today as kind of the start of a dialogue around the idea of having the city adopt a zoning ordinance for us. It kind of follows on naturally from the adoption earlier this year, there it is, of our comprehensive plan. Good. Looks like we got some slides up and everybody can, I'm hoping that the public in attendance virtually can see those. And is it on your computer? Okay.
You want me to drive it or do you want me to drive?
Here, I can drive it. Just down, right?
It'd be one of those, yeah.
And so this is a discussion that's not really intended to focus on any particular form of a zoning ordinance, but more of a kind of an introduction for all of us on what a zoning ordinance would be and how it might work for our city. And in particular, you'll see some of the questions that I'd like to run through here real quickly during this presentation. And the most important one to me is question number 6, which is if we want to think through a zoning ordinance for our city, what would be some important features that we would want to take into consideration in the design of that ordinance? So kind of just starting down the list then, what is zoning for people that may not be kind of familiar with it? Zoning, the power to zone is an authority that is granted by state law to cities like the Village. And essentially zoning is a regulation by the city of essentially 2 things. One is how land gets used in the city, and then 2, what kind of structures can be put on land within the city. Under state law, the goal or the purpose of zoning is really to promote the general health, safety, and welfare of a community. And it does that by keeping land uses consistent and compatible within specific areas. As I say, the zoning regulations are required under state law to align with the comprehensive plan, which we approved earlier this year, as everybody remembers. An important part about zoning is that it's really different from the subdivision rules that are adopted and enforced by the POA. And I've got a little slide here that kind of shows some of the ways that zoning is really different from the POA's architectural rules. It's a little bit different source of authority. For the architectural rules, those come as part of the deed restrictions that apply under the master declaration for the Hills of Lakeway subdivision. Zoning authority is in effect a local law that is approved by the city's elected officials. And so the public has a kind of a direct input through its elected representatives of the contents of a zoning ordinance. Purpose of the architectural rules essentially is to ensure consistency and uniformity and kind of a neighborhood aesthetic that is consistent with the master declaration. Purpose of the zoning ordinance, as I indicated, is to really preserve our property values, protect the general health and safety of the community, and to preserve what they call in the law quiet enjoyment, which basically means people's ability to use their land for the purposes that they want to use it for, consistent with the ordinance. A lot of difference in scope. Architectural rules, as everybody probably knows, very, very detailed for things like building materials that you can use, your landscaping requirements, lighting, swimming pool requirements, the location of gutters, etc. Zoning can be, and in many large cities is, pretty detailed. But in general, the scope of it is limited to those 2 things I mentioned earlier. One is, what's the general use of the property? For instance, is it going to be used for residential purposes or commercial purposes or recreational purposes? And the second scope is kind of what type of structures do we want to have on the parcels or lots in, will they be single family homes? Will it be a commercial business, a recreational support facility, something like that? Important difference between the POA rules and the zoning ordinance is that the POA rules are enforced by the POA under the terms of the master declaration. So that's kind of private enforcement. They've got a kind of a penalty regime as well as kind of notice of violation and that sort of thing. The enforcement of zoning ordinance is a lot more robust. And we're permitted under state law to decide not only the uses of land, but to impose penalties that are in effect a misdemeanor. And we also have the ability, if a land use is inconsistent with our zoning ordinance or a structure doesn't get properly permitted, we actually have the ability to go to court to enforce the provisions of our zoning ordinance. So that's an important difference in the enforcement regime. So going on then from the kind of what is zoning topic to how does it work? Essentially, zoning is the province of the city council. It's our decision as to whether to do it and how to do it within the constraints of state law. And we do it through an ordinance, which is typically codified as part of the city code. And I think if we move forward on this, that'd be my recommendation. The first thing that you do in a zoning ordinance is you divide the geography of the city into what they call zoning districts. And this may sound a little bit reminiscent of what we did in our comprehensive plan, because we, as you recall, we kind of laid out the way we sort of saw the vision of the city for the future on a map in the comprehensive plan. We do something very similar in defining the zoning districts. I'll say we have been kind of working on a very, very rough draft of a zoning ordinance. We're not presenting it today. We'll probably try to do that next month. But in that kind of preliminary rough draft, we've looked at some proposed zoning districts. We'd have a single family residential district, obviously, since that's the way most of the property is arranged right now. Multifamily residential district, a commercial district, which would likely be the club facility itself, recreational space, open space, and then we threw in kind of one that we could call like a municipal district or maybe a community purpose district, something like that. But our thought, at least in thinking through the draft, is that this would include the property that's owned by either the POA or by the MUD or by the city. In other words, land uses in that particular type of zoning district would be those that would be supporting the community. This is all subject to change, and that's just kind of a preliminary assessment of it. So going back to the how does zoning work, after the ordinance divides the city into zoning districts, then the ordinance also prescribes the way that the land in each district can be used. And here's a key concept. Within any zoning district, the restrictions on the land use or the authorized types of land use has to apply to all of the parcels, all the lots that are within that district. And then once you get the zoning ordinance set up, basically an owner who wants to build a new structure or make a new use of a lot has to do so in accordance with the permitted land uses for the particular district they're in. And then second, we have a kind of a permit process under the zoning ordinance, where if an owner wants to build a new structure, then they would need to get permission from the city through a process that's defined in the ordinance in order to build that new structure. So that in kind of a very high level is how a zoning works and how a zoning ordinance would be constructed. Moving on then, what's our council's role in that process? And to my way of thinking, there's kind of 6 things that are important about it. One is that it's the council's responsibility to define the zoning districts in the ordinance. It's also our responsibility in that ordinance to specify the permissible types of land use for each of the districts. And then we would establish, as I say, a permit process. The purpose of that is really to help ensure that all the land is used in compliance with the permitted uses that are in the zoning district. And then typically zoning ordinances, and I'm not even sure if this is a legal requirement, we can ask the city attorney in executive session, but we probably want to have an appeal process where if for some reason the city needed to turn down an owner on a requested use piece of property, they'd have the ability to appeal that denial of that permit request. It's the council's prerogative to modify or amend the zoning ordinance, and it's the council's not only prerogative, but also responsibility to enforce violations of the zoning ordinance. As I say, those can be either warnings, they can be fines that are Class C misdemeanors, or the city also has the legal authority then to go to court to enjoin a land use that's inconsistent with the zoning ordinance. Moving along then, what about property owners? What are the responsibilities of our landowners within the city under a zoning ordinance? Essentially 2. One, the uses of your land need to be consistent with the permitted uses of the land in the district where your land is located. And 2, before you build anything new, you need to request and receive a building permit from the city. That's it. As I say, in large cities, the requirements for getting a building permit are extremely detailed and oftentimes take a while to kind of get through the administrative process. one of the things that would be very important to me, and if we're looking at approving a zoning ordinance, would be to create a permit process that is very simple and easy to get through. So we don't overburden ourselves administratively and create unnecessary extra administrative burden for our residents. So why in the world would we ever do this? Say that to me, the compelling case for a zoning ordinance for our city is that it helps preserve our property values by ensuring that the land uses are all compatible with other nearby land uses. And this to me is an important point as well. The zoning ordinance is an organic document, and it has a life of its own. It can be changed and modified based on the needs and the desires of the community. So it really gives the community a voice in how future development of the city will look. It also, zoning ordinances preserve the residents' ability to enjoy their property by protecting against things like incompatible land uses. You see this down in Houston, which I think has no zoning ordinance. So you see like a residence right next to a high-rise building, retail facilities right next to schoolhouses, that type of thing. Incompatible uses is something that a zoning ordinance helps us prevent. It also helps us preserve the desirable features of our beautiful city, our trails and park system, our open spaces, all of that stuff you can kind of build into the zoning ordinance. And then finally, I'll note that, it's a good zoning ordinance for our Village of the Hills should complement but not replace the POA architectural rules. In other words, I would not want to see us kind of move forward to something that either replicates what the POA is already doing, or even worse, it might be at odds with what they're doing. So this to me would be a process that we would want to kind of coordinate with the POA moving forward. And then this to me is kind of the important slide for us to talk about. And before we ever got to the point where we would be presenting to the residents of our city a proposed zoning ordinance, I wanted to kind of get as much input from our council as possible about what we think the important considerations would be in designing a zoning ordinance. For me, this is just kind of my list, okay? But for me, one of the things we want to make real clear is there be no disruption to anybody's existing land use. In other words, we're all fine the way we are right now. And if we approve the zoning ordinance, everybody should be in compliance with it on day one. Don't want to have to put anybody in a situation where they have what I think is called a non-conforming use, which is a use of the land that's not consistent with the ordinance. So we'd have kind of a grandfather that would authorize all the existing land uses and structures rather than forcing anybody to change anything. Second, minimal administration. So, we're lean and mean staffed in the city and don't want to create any additional administrative burden that we don't have to for either for our city administrator or for our council members or frankly anybody else, for our residents. So we would look at a zoning ordinance that would ensure those two fundamental principles, that land is used for appropriate purposes and also that the structures on the land are compatible with one another architecturally and in terms of use. But beyond that, probably don't want to have a whole lot of details that we need to build into a permit process. I also think it's important that any zoning ordinance that the village did would be flexible. In other words, that the ordinance would provide the opportunity for residents, if they wanted to request a land use that was not listed in the ordinance as permissible, that they'd have the ability to make that request. And then the council could take that up and look at the context and to decide how to move forward on it. I also think it's important for any zoning ordinance that we enact to be enforceable and that we have effective processes and effective rules that we can and would enforce to ensure the integrity of the kind of the scheme that's in the zoning ordinance. And then once again, it needs to really be complementary with the POA architectural rules with no kind of overlap to create additional unnecessary administrative burden. Those to me are kind of the important zoning considerations, but if others have other ideas that or don't like any of these, I'd welcome those comments either now or anytime line as well. And, you know, and I'll just suggest, Mayor, if members of the public in attendance have any comments on any of this presentation, I'd be happy to hear them at this point. But I think that's basically that's kind of the end of the presentation here. So I'll give this back to you. Thank you. And thank you for indulging me to make that presentation, Mayor. I appreciate it.
No, thank you for putting the time and effort into all of that.
And my thought is that if we decide we want to move this forward, we can talk with the city attorney in executive session about kind of what that process would look like. I believe that there's a kind of a public hearing that's required prior to the council taking action on a proposed zoning ordinance or changes to a zoning ordinance, and maybe try to tee that up for our September council meeting. And then maybe look to the October council meeting for actual action on a zoning ordinance at that meeting. So that'd be kind of my thought for laying out a timeline. But again, that's not the council's, that's the council's decision, not mine, but that'd be one way to move it forward. And I guess we can talk more with Josh in executive session about that.
I appreciate the effort and the dedication to putting together this presentation, but also providing information for us. That timeline sounds really well to me. So.
Yeah, I think it'd be important, Mayor Pro Tem, for the residents in the community to, you know, kind of have some visibility on this topic. And my thought is, if there's a way to do it, that we could put some materials up on the website, you know, either along the lines of this slide deck, or maybe even put up some draft ordinance when we get to that point. So if members of the community are interested, they have a way to go look at it themselves, and that way they can make their suggestions and ask their questions when we have the public hearing.
Marty, you have any questions?
Great presentation. Appreciate you doing that. You could teach a real estate class. Yeah, I mean, academically, it makes sense to do. I understand the value of it. I'm a little torn as to, you know, cities have this, that makes sense, but not many cities have a citywide POA. And is there anything that this would do that the POA doesn't already kind of do with its own function? And granted, the club is not in POA in any sense. So yeah, I'm kind of, in my mind, I'm just thinking, you know, is this really necessary, or is it just kind of more burdensome or bureaucratic? But I'm torn. I'm not.
Yeah, that's a good question to talk through, and that was one of the reasons I kind of put up that slide that sort of contrasts the POA rules and enforcement regime with what we would see under a zoning ordinance. And I do know that, you know, there was some discussion and concern within the last year or so about, you know, whether parts of the city are actually included within the scope of the master declaration that controls the POA rules. And this, if nothing else, would at least take away that ambiguity. And it would be more, to me, it'd be kind of future facing and looking more toward, you know, how you think about, you know, redevelopment or reconstruction in what is, you know, frankly, a mature community. You know, the building, a lot of the structures in our community have been around for more than a quarter century, and, you know, typically kind of get to the point where you might see some tear downs, rebuilds, that type of thing. And this could help us make sure that the kind of the future look of the community is the way that we would like for it to be, or the way the council would like for it to be.
I think to your point, and you referenced it in discussion too, is working alongside the POA, or at least having conversations. So I think that would be something important to have before our next meeting. If there might be a small committee of council that would work with the POA to ensure that everything's aligned and see how they're feeling about it. Would that be okay?
I agree.
I would also just add that I think that a zoning ordinance is a better enforcement tool than the tools even that the POA has, right? Like, you have a better standing with the court, you have better presumptions, you can get injunctions more easily than, you know, because the POA and the declaration, those are just contracts, right? And people can could potentially attack the deed restrictions in some way, argue waiver, things like that, and you're going to be in a better position with the city law to enforce those things in connection with the POA and that cooperation. But it's just an extra layer, I think, and it's a more effective.
Yeah, Marty, I think you're asking the core question.
Yeah.
Is what's the,
That's a good answer for it.
yeah.
Thank you, Josh.
Anybody, we'll start with them. Any questions or comments on the, okay. That is helpful. Go ahead and go online. I don't know if anybody online has any questions or comments. Greg, Tom, Karthik, Rick, sorry, Rick.
And I'll just say too, Mayor, is that, yeah, I think it'd be important, as the Mayor Pro Tem is suggesting, to have a kind of a healthy ongoing dialogue with the POA as this moves forward to make sure that we're aligned with them. We don't really have a draft at this point that's kind of ready for prime time. We haven't really sent anything out to the POA, but I think we'd be in an opportunity, we'd have an opportunity fairly soon to be able to do that.
Just a quick comment, if I may, related to some prior explorations of this question. The two challenges that were considered most salient were on the front end, that a permitting process that would be wholly redundant of the POA permitting process would be kind of oppressive and potentially just an unneeded tax on builders. So to the extent you're looking to harmonize with POA processes, I would urge you to consider methods that would make the permitting process extremely streamlined or intended to supplant the POA's process rather than just have pure redundancy, especially with respect to fees. Second was on the back end is enforcement. We were given advice at the time that you would have to have a certified code enforcement officer making these enforcement citations. So that's a consideration for cost and administration.
That's helpful. Fully agree with the permitting process. So there's lots of stuff we still need to talk through. And then Angie is our certified code enforcement officially at this point. So we're taking care of it there. But those are great considerations, Greg. Thank you. And we'll definitely work with you all as this moves along. So I appreciate both the historical knowledge of what was done and then just the spirit of partnership. So we appreciate that. Karthik, did you have any questions? Okay, thank you. Okay. Yeah, I think we should probably discuss just a little further in executive session, some of the legal considerations, parameters, process. Yeah, thank you, Lee.
Sure. Yeah, my pleasure.
Okay. 7C, discuss, consider, and take action on the Welcome Committee applicants, Joe McKeel and Jeanette Sikorsky. Marty, you want to go ahead and take this off?
Both, I guess I'll speak about both of them. Great neighbors, great contributors already. Joe is on our favorite street, Luna Vista, and extremely involved in the community, and has already been, attending the Welcome Committee meetings, I guess as a member of the public, and also has contributed great ideas. And Jeanette served on Parks, and she, since we established the Welcome Commission, she thought that she might contribute a little bit more to that than Parks. So actually, her husband is applying to Parks. So
great.
The whole family is going. So yeah, definitely endorse both of them joining the Welcome Commission team. And their applications are attached to them.
Let's see.
What PDF page?
59 and 60.
Yeah, the applications look good.
And I know Joe personally. He is our Luna Vista neighbors. So I fully support him. I mean, he's also been highly involved with the elementary school and fundraising in the Lakeway Elementary gala, fundraising gala. And then I know he does teach or coach soccer teams and stuff of that nature. And then obviously Jeanette's been actively involved. So I appreciate the continued involvement with the community.
Do you want to move their appointment, Marty?
Yeah, move to approve welcome. Joe McKeel and Jeanette Sikorsky.
I will second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye,
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
great.
Excellent. Thank you, Joe and Jeanette. Angie, can you reach out to the Travis County?
I will.
Okay, we'll move on to item E, discussion and possible action to study the feasibility of developing community center for Village of the Hills and to publish a request for qualifications. So this is, again, like it says, it's something that the community's discussed in the past around the potential need for a small office space community center and perhaps a space where the POA could also sublease from us and we can kind of continue in partnership given some of the dynamics around office space availability here at the MUD office. So again, what this really is a discussion around sounds like a lot of potentials, but the possibility to discuss just what would be required to look into the feasibility of actually getting additional information around the requirements to build a building, costs, structure, interest from the community, location. So it's kind of an all-encompassing request, but really it is to just kind of kick off an information gathering phase. I don't know if anybody else has any questions or comments on the item itself before we discuss further, but.
Yeah, the item itself, I feel like has been kind of talked about amongst the community members and having been brought to council before. And so I think that this would be an appropriate and responsible way to really dig into what that could look like. Of course, my personal and as a council member responsible for utilizing the tax dollars responsibly weighs heavily on me for something that would be a large investment, but with long-term maintenance and utility needs. So I'm very curious and would love to be very hands-on in this process to discover what that would look like.
That actually raises a good question of whether we should assign specifically a few members to kick off a feasibility study.
Yeah, if we want to formulate a committee, it might be appropriate to kind of keep the ball rolling along and report during meetings as we get to that point.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and everybody can chime in here, but definitely I think that the thing that we're all most focused on is whether it's a fiscally intelligent decision. And I don't think at this point we have enough information to make a determination whether it is a good decision or a bad decision. So I just would like everyone to know that this would be undertaken with full consideration, whether it's financially prudent and needed and supported. So again, I think that if I'm happy for anybody to be directly involved, and I know there's definitely some community members and including some architects that have offered to help us kind of evaluate the opportunity as well. And then we obviously have a few real estate experts on our council here, looking at Marty as well. So
How do you envision the study of feasibility moving forward?
we would just kind of have to get with architects and a builder maybe to figure out potentially what the cost would be. I mean, one would be a site selection, like where do we want it?
Mhm.
Then what are the costs? And then we really need to figure out just how much is just the ongoing maintenance costs, utilities. I mean, there's all these costs. So we really have to drill down on what the costs ongoing would be for the next 30-year useful life of a commercial building.
Yeah, I mean, before we get to cost, you probably need to figure out programming.
Yeah.
What's the scope of this building? What does it do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, do we want public input on that, feedback?
Yeah.
Survey, whatever.
Mayor, if you'd be open to it, I would be willing to lead and host a community gathering of some sort to get that input. If that's something that we'd
I
be
think it's a great
looking
idea.
to get the ball started.
Yeah, I think so. And then, yeah, whomever else would like to be directly involved can help Sarah as well.
You're in?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You, me, and Sarah can be our committee for our exploration committee.
All right, well, I will work with y'all and we'll pick a date and
Rick, did you
We
have
might
any?
want to ask Angie to talk to a few other communities that do have activity centers and find out what their uses is there as well.
There you go, Angie.
I will do.
And again, this would be something I think we should also do in conjunction with the POA in terms of
Mhm.
just general feedback and planning.
I agree. Great. Sounds like a plan to go
I think
forward.
if there's an art, we could use hotel taxes for it.
Hey, yeah, of course. Of course, dollars.
Thank you, Sarah.
Okay, item F, discuss, consider, and take action regarding purchase list of emergency equipment. So over some years, and I think this kind of started with former Mayor Greg Wharton, who's on, there's been discussions around emergency preparedness and the need for just a base list of recommended equipment that we would need in the event of emergency. And as part of our planning budget and capital expenditures, we reached out to Mayor Pro Tem Carroll reached out to our emergency management coordinator to determine what items she would think that we would need that, checks various boxes around communications, alerts, power, lighting, medical safety, and then just public information dissemination. And she has provided us a list that she would recommend that we consider acquiring. He is not in attendance, but so do you have any kind of, I know you've been spearheading the list.
Right. So the list is quite comprehensive. It is from the radios that we talked about before, NOAA weather radios. But she went all the way down to, the storage of those materials, emergency needs such as blankets, sleeping mats, etc. What I think would be, and I should share also, she didn't include any dollars associated to any of these. So nor is it in a prioritized matter of here's the top 10 or 20 things I would purchase. I'd like to, I think it'd be responsible to go back to her, ask her, given our space limitations and what are the top items that we could and should purchase, and move forward with those items. Rick, I've looked at a lot of the budget and I believe that we have plenty of funds to move forward with. I do believe that the expense of the items would exceed Angie's purchase policy allowance. So in order to continue to move this along, first I would ask council if they have seen if they see things on this list that they would themselves prioritize. But then secondarily, set aside an allowance for Angie to go ahead and make these purchases. That would exceed her threshold, her current threshold.
So are you looking for a particular spend authority then, or?
I would say, I would suggest up to $10,000 would be my recommendation.
And if Angie can sign off on that, I know I can, and Sarah and Kevin can as well.
I mean, going through the detailed list, I mean, a lot of the stuff seems just prudent to have. I mean, there's emergency communications there, just for everyone's reference. We should have a generator, LED emergency flares, lamps, medical and safety equipment. Some of this stuff, hopefully you won't need to use, but seems prudent just to keep. If we have the space and ability to acquire the stuff, I think that we should. I mean, there's even, granted, we have support from other community services, but there's, shelter supplies, storage and deployment, and then just miscellaneous kind of community support items that we could deploy in case of emergency.
And I'm curious, who would be the kind of the recipients or beneficiaries of the recommended items? So,
Village of the Hills, well, that's the other question of where these items go. Because like if we find a portable generator, those are quite large. My suggestion there would be that it is hosted within the city limits, probably in the park area. I think it may result in some changes in how that park storage closet is utilized. Possibly the events closet maybe possibly gets moved to a smaller storage shed located at the park facilities. Maybe that's a temporary resolution for now. But she listed on there that, the radios would be in hand for the mayor pro tem, administrator, and any security checkpoints. Handheld radios would have to be accessible when and if an emergency happens. So that's where I think in the park, in a locked space with power so that they're constantly charged, would be responsible. So I think there's a few dominoes that have to fall in order for it to.
Just have one at your house. The mayor should have one.
Yeah, the radios and stuff. Yeah, there should be, I think there would be basic.
Ownerships.
We'd have to go through some of this stuff, but yeah, like a portable generator, that's gonna take up some space.
Yeah.
Again, consideration to your point, like where are we gonna store it? And I think that was kind of an issue before. Was just general storage, maintenance, upkeep, who's responsible for making sure that the stuff is charged and deployable.
Right.
Some places also do like interlocals with maybe a school district for, operating, either storage or setting up, shelters and things if there's some issue that comes up. I don't know if y'all have looked at that, but.
Well, I know Wahida had worked with, as a part of our Tri-City agreement, using like Lakeway Church would be our emergency shelter. So
Yeah, for the shelter stuff.
that is something that has been coordinated. I know that.
I thought about it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. It's a good refresher of what we do have access to. These would be for items just simply within our city limits, but obviously like the radio would also, our EMC would also have one to be a touch point should that become an issue.
So was the motion?
So the motion would be to, I don't know, Rick, do you think a budget of $10,000 would be suitable, or?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So, go ahead.
So is that for next year's budget you're talking about, or do you want to spend it this year?
This year.
Okay.
We've already, when we discussed the budget last year, we left dollars associated to this and just seeking the approval to go ahead and spend those dollars.
Okay.
Right.
So we got money in the budget for it then, right? Okay.
We do.
So I would seek a motion to go ahead and approve, purchase the recommended equipment after seeking additional WIKITA feedback on the top items to have on hand.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed, none, motion carries. Marty, is this something you'd be interested also in being plugged into?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just, like, primary concern for me is just like the radios die and
Yeah.
everything gets dusty and we kind of forget we even have it.
Well, that would be, yeah,
So
we
we
could
really need someone to, I think, like. kind
take
of,
ownership.
Yeah,
You seem like.
quartermaster.
Yeah. And directed Sam to obtain these items. Oh, okay.
Well,
Thanks for the info, Greg.
it'll get done.
Okay. We'll go ahead and move on to item G, discuss, consider, and take action on meeting protocol. Terry, do you want to pick this one off or you want me to?
I'll let you go ahead and.
Yeah, so I think we have encountered some issues recently regarding the Zoom meetings, access and abuse around those resources that I think we've struggled with the Park and Recreation Commission. And I think that's around Zoom, as well as just some general accessibility and technology issues around Zoom. We've heard feedback from a few people that they would prefer a YouTube live feed for easier streaming and immediate access as opposed to Zoom, which I think there's a couple benefits to that. One being there's obviously immediate access post the meeting as opposed to us waiting to post the Zoom meetings online. And it's just much easier to access. I think this would be more similar to what a lot of the other cities do in terms of Lakeway and the city of Austin, where they have live feeds and not an actual dial into Zoom and log in and do that stuff. So it'd be much easier for the community to access and hop in and out of. It would also resolve some issues that we've had with hacking of the Zoom meetings at our Parks and Recreation Commission, which has caused some issues, which we've reported and worked with Zoom to hopefully remediate those issues. But I think this would resolve some of those concerns ongoing in terms of just general meeting disruption. So I think that's specifically what we're talking about, is how do we want to operate our video feed for our meetings as opposed to just as considering general alternatives to Zoom.
Yeah. I agree with everything that you've said. In addition to that, I appreciate, the community having, supported also Carthage has and had in the past streamed our meetings on YouTube, and I've seen attendance of those with those numbers are more favorable than our Zoom meetings. So I know people are plugging themselves into either the live feed of that or rewatching it, which I think would be, it's kind of, there's data that shows that would be a good move for us to make also. So with that, I think we'd, have to create our own YouTube hosted page and store our videos there. But the complication, or not complication, the one thing that we would have to work on effectively changing is the community input portion of that. And I think that we could very responsibly do that through our website. I hope everyone's had a chance to go to the website, but there's some great buttons on the main page, and we could look at those and repurposing one or a few of those to direct to community input or specific council meeting input that they would like to have received or have a comment. And we'd have to speak with legal about how we could receive those and share those, if attendees are not able to be in the room, but of course, we just don't want to miss out on that public comment period and being able to share that. So, but I think that we've got great resources to be able to still hear and see that public comment, as well as getting the meeting information out immediately.
I like YouTube. You can't do both. It's one or the other.
I think there's issues around just Zoom, and we just had technology issues also just separately that we've had. I mean, it could be as simple as even just YouTube, and then I've had lots of requests just specifically for like dial-in.
Dial-in, yeah. Conference call.
Yeah, so if somebody wants to dial in and make public comment, I think that'd be pretty simple. And then YouTube would take care of the immediately available live streaming. I mean, the disadvantage of somebody doing the phone line would be you just wouldn't see their face, but most people aren't on video anyways. And then again, I think Lakeway, the way they do it is require everyone to sign up in advance or be in person or submit public comment electronically. So we're still allowing everyone to participate in, I mean, live action if we were to do a phone line, which I think, again, I've had lots of people say, why don't you just do a phone line and dial in? Because that's what I do for like the POA. People have done for POA is a lot of people just dial in.
And that's what the city of Austin does. They do it a little bit different. They've actually got their own TV station that live streams the council meetings, and that's a one-way communication, but they have a dial-in feature for people that want to phone in from remote and make comments to the council, either on public comments or on specific items. And that seems to work pretty well. I don't know how hard it is to administer, but it works.
That's more than a lot of cities do.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think, so, I don't know if Greg had a comment, or not Greg, sorry, if Rick, did you have any thoughts or questions or comments?
No, not on this subject.
Okay. Yeah, and I see Greg on the group chat suggested perhaps YouTube and drop a Zoom link for taking in comments. But I think that as long as we are making sure that there is mechanisms by which people can directly participate and solve our technology issues, I think that would be sufficient, especially if we're going above and beyond what other neighboring communities are doing. I think that's something that I think we're happy to do and strive for that.
Yeah, I'll just say that as you're thinking through this, to me, an important point would be not to go backwards. In other words, not to change our the way we broadcast our meetings so that people have lesser or fewer opportunities to directly participate. We can enhance it, great, but let's don't go backwards.
Do we need a motion to modify protocol and procedure?
Well,
I think it's a written document that you have. I couldn't find it. You'll need to amend that.
Okay.
It says, it specifies a method, right? Like if it just says you'll broadcast change. I didn't have the time to, or I didn't actually have a copy of the policy.
If it's in the meeting procedures that are in resolution 25 or 2025-02, I don't think there's actually anything in there that talks about broadcasting the meetings. Is there?
No, I didn't bring the printout. It was item.
I'm just looking in the public participation section, which is at the end of it, but maybe there's something else in it.
Yes, it does allow for persons sorry. Public participation shall include the opportunity for persons present in person or remotely to address the council for up to 3 minutes on any topic.
So we're not talking about changing that.
No, we are
We're
not.
talking about enhancing it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the way we deliver that.
Possibly formulating a new method of addressing council.
Mhm.
What I'm seeking is an additional method through our website
I think it's a great idea.
to share a public comment that then would be distributed amongst with our agenda packets. And also a sign up for those commentaries. So I guess my
Oh, now I'm just
uh,
familiar to the language you just
Yeah.
read.
so my only don't know that if we'd be making a change to the protocol.
Too. And
Yeah.
I think if anything, that's what you're talking about. Then the decision. If more people are watching on YouTube, if more people engaged, and maybe that means more people come in person.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's only a good thing.
Yeah.
Great.
Good idea.
I think it's progress.
Action.
You're taking action, or you're gonna give direction to staff to implement the YouTube challenge, or?
I think we should give direction to staff to implement the YouTube change. And we should just, if anybody else kind of continues to think through other considerations we need to take into account.
Mhm.
But I think we could go ahead and set up a city YouTube.
Mhm.
Josh, would there be any kind of, it would just be the same kind of like record, like if somebody, there's no issues with YouTube in terms of like Open Meetings Act and anything else, right? Just an extra.
You have no obligation to broadcast
Okay.
meeting at all.
Okay.
So the fact that y'all do that is just a bonus for transparency. And if you have those multiple ways that people can present comments, on your website, you could read, you or some other member of council could read those comments at the beginning of a meeting, or you can allow call them. I think those are all great.
I think we should also just publicize that capability.
If you're okay, I think
Yeah.
we should definitely make a highlight
Yeah.
of this modification before our next meeting.
You spend so much time on the website, we should only push it out even more.
Let's use it.
Thank you. Okay. Business item. Angie, what do you want to do about 7D? Discuss, consider, take action on a resolution of the Village of the Hills, Texas, authorizing the mayor to execute a cooperation agreement with Travis County for participation in the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnerships Program.
They have not responded. They were supposed to be here. This grant is it's basically HUD from Travis County to include the Village of the Hills for emergency. Hold on, let me pull that up right quick. It has different benefits to it. It's just authorizing. Let me pull it up real quick. Say if there's a ice storm, they give us, basically they help us fund if we need any damage or anything like that. It's just an extra grant for us to have for, there's healthcare involved, emergency involved. There's different things that are involved with this grant. I'm trying to pull it up right quick.
Are we eligible for that?
Yes, Travis County reached out to us in reference to that. They take it to the county commissioners for that. I questioned them if we ever participated before. They said no, but they wanted us to participate in it. Basically, it's I looked at the emergency part more than the HUD part. for lower income housing.
Right.
I was looking more at the emergency. If anything happened to the city, they would help us get the funding, federal grants.
And is that a separate program from the community development block grants?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
These,
I don't think we're eligible for community development block grants.
oh, no, it's not. Hold on.
It seems to me that they want us to be in the pool.
In the pool.
The application
Right.
wouldn't necessarily be
Accept or approved.
approved
Yeah.
if any of our homeowners applied. I definitely would have questions for for Travis County representatives. So
Yeah.
if it's okay, Mayor, I would suggest tabling it.
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
Yeah.
Because Angie had requested that
Yeah.
a representative attend either in person or on the phone. And
Okay.
they indicated that they were happy to have somebody join. So we can get a walk through the program and answer any questions. And then Angie's emailed them a couple times to see if they would join. So I think we're gonna have to table this.
Yeah, I've pulled up the community development block grant page on the Travis County website, and it doesn't show us as being in their service area. I think the Lakeway's in it, but we're not.
The one representative that we got
Uh-huh.
in reference to this was very new. So I had a lot of questions for her, and the one that was supposed to show up is actually from Steiner Ranch. She was supposed to be here. I emailed her a couple of times this morning. She hasn't responded, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yep. All right. I think that was that was each of our business items. Okay, so I think we have a couple of things we want to discuss in executive session. Now we'll move into executive session. The mayor and city council may adjourn into executive session at any time during the course of this meeting to discuss any matters listed on the agenda as authorized by the Texas Government Code, including but not limited to sections 551.071 consultation with attorney. So 8A 551.071 consultation with attorney on issues regarding land use regulations within the city. Item B 551.071 consultation with attorney on issues regarding emergency management coordinator contract. It is now 10:22 and we are convening into executive session.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Very nice to meet you, sir.